Hello everyone, CB here from CJB Studios, and welcome to part 3 of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man Trilogy review series on my channel. Today, since it is part 3, we're going to be taking a look at the third and final installment in the trilogy, known as Spider-Man 3. This film came out on May 4th, 2007, and just like the first two, it was a pretty big hit at the box office. However, unlike the first two, the reception that it got was very mixed. Some people liked it, and other people didn't like it. What are my thoughts on it? Well, I'll save that towards the end of the review, after I'm done talking about the plot. Speaking of which, let's get right into it. So the events of this movie takes place several months after the second one, where Spider-Man is swinging from building to buildings, as well as being a hero to the city of New York that everybody likes. As for his alter ego being Peter Parker, he's actually succeeding in class, and he's also planning to marry Jane Watson, because he's actually in love with her now. Yes, it was implied that he loved her in the first two films, but this time he actually admits it, so kudos for that, I guess. As for his friend Harry Osborn, however, he's actually struggling over the fact that Spider-Man / Peter Parker supposedly killed his father, the Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn. In fact, as a way to follow in his father's footsteps, Harry ends up taking the same performance enhancers that his father took. Only he doesn't become mentally insane like he did. Meanwhile, a criminal known by the name of Flint Marko is trying to escape the police. But in the process, he ends up falling in a super collider. And once the collider activates, he turns into sand. He fortunately does survive it, but he has the ability to shapeshift into sand while being in human form. The very next day, sorry about that. The very next day, a girl by the name of Gwen Stacy, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, is actually doing a photo shoot during a crane accident. Spider-Man fortunately saves her, but in the process of that, he's also introduced to a new person by the name of Eddie Brock, played by Topher Grace. Eddie Brock is actually hired to be the new photographer of the Daily Bugle for taking pictures of Spider-Man. Speaking of Spider-Man, after having a parade celebrated about him, along with kissing Gwen Stacy upside down, kind of like what he did to Mary Jane in the first film, he decides to fight the Sandman after seeing a sandstorm fly by. I should point out that Sandman / Flint Marko is portrayed by Thomas Hayden Church. Later on that night, however, Peter learns a shocking truth that Flint Marko actually supposedly killed his uncle, Uncle Ben. In case you guys don't remember what happened in the first Spider-Man, Uncle Ben was shot by a carjacker. And while Peter thought that Dennis Carradine was the one who killed them, because, he actually did think that, that's actually not true. Dennis was actually an accomplice, and Flint Marko was the one who actually killed him. Peter is, of course, sad and very angry because of this, and when he's falling asleep in his Spider-Man suit, a black goo, which is actually an alien symbiote that fell from outer space, ends up attaching to the suit, making it black. This is what refers to him now as the black-suited Spider-Man. And so he decides to encounter Flint Marko during his second fight on a subway train. Flint Marko vanishes after turning into some mud, since, sand and water become mud if you mix the two, and Peter, of course, is happy for this. What he doesn't realize, however, is that the suit is actually controlling him and making him do horrible things. Such as, fighting Harry for one, since he still can't get over the fact that, his father was killed by Spider-Man, even though, once again, that's not entirely true. And not only that, Peter ends up also getting Eddie Brock fired, since it turns out that Brock had a couple fake photos. And also ends up making Peter Parker become Emo Parker. Later on the next night, though, after all that incidents, as well as fighting Mary Jane at a club with the black suit, Peter decides to take it off. while being in a church. Around the same time, Eddie Brock prays that he wants Peter Parker killed since he got fired and was also humiliated. Around this time, as he's doing this, once Peter gets the black suit off of him, it ends up attaching to Eddie, making him become Venom. As payback, he decides to team up with the Sandman in order to get back at Peter as revenge, as well as wanting him killed too. As a way to do this, they decide to kidnap Mary Jane Watson and have a whole crowd come see what's happening. Fortunately, Harry Osborn comes to save Peter after learning that his father was actually killed by his own glider when he was trying to kill Peter. And because of this, Harry actually does feel sympathetic and decides to save his friend, as well as save Mary Jane in the process. Unfortunately, Harry ends up getting impaled by his own glider, just like his father was, thanks to Venom. Luckily for Peter, though, he ends up taking Eddie Brock out of the Venom symbiote and decides to blow it up with a pumpkin bomb. However, Eddie goes after it and ends up getting killed alongside the explosion. Once all that's over, Sandman / Flint Marko tells Peter why he accidentally killed his uncle. And after thinking it through, Peter decides to forgive him, which causes the Sandman to vanish into the wind. After that, Peter and Mary Jane try to, make sure if Harry's okay, even though he was severely stabbed by the blade of the glider, and as a result, Harry ends up dying. The movie ends with Peter and Mary Jane hugging each other. So yeah, that was my review on Spider-Man 3, and do you guys remember what I said earlier about, how some people liked it, some people didn't like it? For me, it's a mix of both. Like, on one hand, like, the first half of the film does feel like Spider-Man, it really does, just like the first two did. But then, after that, when we get to, oh gosh, what is it? When we get to, Eddie Brock getting fired, and then the emo Parker dance stuff, and, Venom being added in, that's where it doesn't feel like Spider-Man at all. And speaking of Venom, he wasn't originally going to be in this movie. Like, the only reason he was put in at all was because Avi Arad wanted him in there. And, like, if I remember correctly, I think the Vulture was actually supposed to be in this movie instead of Venom. I mean, Sandman was, of course, planned from there to be in the third film, as far as I know, at least from what I've researched anyway. But not only that, when it came to the film's climax, Mary Jane was not supposed to be captured. It was originally going to be Gwen Stacy, but Bryce Dallas Howard, the actress who played her, was actually pregnant during the time. So they changed it at the last minute to have Mary Jane be the one being captured. Ironically enough, though, since I actually bring up Gwen Stacy, one thing I forgot to mention in my review of the first movie is that Kirsten Dunst actually thought she was going to play Gwen, because she actually is a blonde-headed girl in real life, just like Gwen is in the comics. And what's even more ironic is that Bryce Dallas Howard is actually a redhead, and she dyed her hair blonde for the role. How about that? A blonde-headed girl being a redhead, and a redheaded girl being a blondehead. Who would have thought, huh? But I digress a bit. There are a lot of issues I have with this movie. Again, like Venom being one of them, even though I did think Topher Grace did a great job as Venom. And, well, like, not only that, but seeing Harry Osborn actually understand what really happened to his father, even if it was right near the climax of the movie, like, it really just goes to show that he still cares about Peter, even if he, did become a little evil after taking the performance enhancers. But as I already stated, he didn't go mentally crazy like his father did, since, in case you guys don't remember, the performance enhancers in the first film weren't ready yet. So I assume they were in this one. And, like, there's, like, a lot I could talk about with this. Like, again, the emo Parker stuff, like, you know, him dancing to that James Brown song, what is it, Funky Soul or something. And then there's the not nightclub, but there's the club scene at night where he ends up hitting Mary Jane because he's still attached to the symbiote. Man, like, I could go on and on about all the issues, but everyone else has already done it, so if I did it, it would come across as repetitive. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, all the positives for it. I will say, though, this one is the weakest of the trilogy. I will fully admit that. And, well, I guess it's time I address the elephant in the room. Spider-Man 4. For those who don't know, in case you guys haven't seen one of my videos that I did back in February, after this movie came out, there was going to be a fourth one, where it had Anne Hathaway as Black Cat, and it was also going to have, I forgot who played Dr. Connors in this trilogy, but he was actually going to be the Lizard in the fourth movie. And, well, since Sam Raimi wasn't happy with how this one turned out, none of that ever ended up happening. And because of this, that film was canceled and then got ultimately rebooted into Spider-Man, well, The Amazing Spider-Man starring Andrew Garfield. Now, I know what a lot of you are probably going to ask me. Will I be doing a review on the other Spider-Man films? Like, you know, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the MCU movies. I'm bringing this up right now because before I started recording the first movie's review, my brother actually asked me this exact question. He actually asked me, are you going to review the other ones? Like, are you going to review The Amazing Spider-Man? And, well, that's actually up in the air right now because I've never seen that film in its entirety. I've only seen, like, I've seen bits and pieces of the first one, but I saw the second one in its entirety. So I might review those two at some point in the future. I just don't know when. And I might do the same thing with the MCU films as well, starring Tom Holland. But like I said, that's up in the air. So, yeah. Oh! I almost forgot. This is the 2-disc DVD release of Spider-Man 3. I actually got this on my... I got this on my 14th birthday, just like I did with Spider-Man 2.1. Here's the spine, here's the back of it, and here's the inside. Here's disc 1 with the red and blue Spider-Man suit. And here's disc 2 with the black Spider-Man suit. I almost forgot to show you guys that. I got a little too excited there. So, yeah, that was my review on Spider-Man 3. I hope you guys, sorry about that. That wasn't supposed to happen. Let me go get that real quick. Sorry. Yeah, that's my review on Spider-Man 3. I will admit, once again, it's the weakest of the trilogy, but I don't hate it. I'm kind of mixed on it, really, just like everybody else, but I can't say that it's bad. And, well, once again, I could go on and on about all the issues with it, but everyone else has already done it, so what's the point? So yeah, that was the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy review series. I know this entire series was not great since, well, I did plan it ahead of time, and, well, I know this one may not be the best, but, you know, I tried since I've been holding on to it. So, I hope you guys liked this review series as well as this video as a whole. Please leave a like on it, comment, subscribe. And before I go, what is your favorite installment of the trilogy? I actually do like all three of them. I mean, again, I'm kind of mixed on this one, but I do like all three of them. I will admit that. So yeah. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this review series. Please leave a like on it, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and I will see you all next time. CB from CW Studios, signing off. And remember, with great power comes great responsibility. See you next time, guys.